Godzilla-THON. Welcome back to the third and final part of my Return of Godzilla, Godzilla 1984, Godzilla 1985 review. One of the other things I like is the structure. Like the first half of the movie is about Godzilla's impending visit to Japan, and the second half is when he arrives to Tokyo. When I talked about how I love the cinematography and how even the daytime scenes have this gloomy look to them, it really helps make the movie because it's so gloomy and it's like Godzilla's shadow is looming over everything. Even when he's not on screen, you know it's only a matter of time before he gets up to Japan, and just that gloomy look helps sell it. There is a new super weapon in this called the Super X, which they use cadmium bombs in it, which is used to seal nuclear reactor leaks. The theory is if it can seal a reactor leak, it can stop Godzilla. Well, Godzilla shows up in Tokyo, and this... people like to dog the miniatures in the Heisei series, and I'll admit they're not as good as they could be, because they made Godzilla bigger, so they had to scale the miniatures down, but this Godzilla was still just small enough that they didn't have to scale them down that much. And the miniatures in this are probably my favorite in the entire series. There's one point, I had just noticed it today, and I got a huge kick out of this. There's a scene where Godzilla's walking through the street, and he caves into, like, the subway, and he falls and, like, crashes into this building. That building, as he's walking by it before he steps in through the street, the building's got the Toho logo on it. That's the Toho building Godzilla's walking by. It's just a little tiny speck of a logo, but noticing that's just awesome. I love that that's there. Okay, I need to stop just gushing because I could gush about this movie forever. And Godzilla's attack is just really well shot. There's two plans. One's the Super X, and the other is they discover that there's a bird frequency that can draw him away, and they plan on leading him to a volcano to drop him into the volcano. And I like this too, that there are two plans. Unlike other movies, they're usually just betting everything on one plan. This time they have a backup. So that's cool. The main characters are in this building in the Shinjuku district, along with this hobo looter who's just taking advantage of the situation. And Godzilla is making his way through, and another one of the best scenes in the movie is when Godzilla passes over the bunker the Prime Minister's in. You hear the loud crashes of his feet hitting the earth. Everything's shaking, and all the people in the bunker are silent and looking up, and you can feel their fear and panic that they have on the inside, hoping the ceiling don't cave in on them and kill them. When Godzilla gets to Shinjuku, the hobo's in this restaurant, and he's looting it, getting a first-class meal, and decides to get up because he wants stronger liquor. Probably why he's homeless, sees Godzilla and gets scared. While this is going on, the professor, the sister, and the reporter perfect the bird sonar in, again, a weird bit of which version did it better. In the US re-edit, it makes it look like he makes a beeline for the building, but in this edit, and I prefer this, once they get the signal, it stops him and his attention is fixed until the Mazers attack him. And Godzilla's tail hits the building they're in, damaging the staircase. And the Super X shows up, and I like the attack scene. They use flares to distract him, get him to roar, shoot cadmium in his mouth. After shooting the shells, when Godzilla's weakened, he hits the Super X with an atomic breath, and it doesn't do a thing. In the American re-edit, that was the first thing he did to the Super X. Sorry, more technical difficulties. My smoke detector battery was in its death rattles, but what I was saying was the way they re-edited it in the American, and that was like the first thing he did to the Super X was give the atomic blast, but it showed how I like this because it showed how much the cadmium already weakened him, and Godzilla passes out. Why this is going on, there's an accidental launch of a Soviet nuclear missile. There was a missile command ship in Tokyo Bay. The Soviet commander died trying to prevent the launch. In the American re-edit, they made it look like he purposely tried to launch it. And they get the Americans to fire a counter missile. I'll say one part that's unintentionally hilarious in the US re-edit. When the Soviet, whoever calls the Japanese ambassador, he's like, hello, foreign minister, bad news. Yeah, I'll say bad news. So they issue a evacuation for all the people in Shinjuku to get into the subway. Why this happens, the brother shows up, he manages to get him and the professor out, and the sister and the reporter get stuck behind because of the currents, they can't stay. And I love a great scene between these two because it's an undercurrent of a love story. She's talking about how scared she is they can die from the missile. Godzilla can wake up and kill them, and he's like, this isn't like you, and he's like, we promise you we're gonna live, and they just embrace. Anyway, the missile detonation is stopped, but the residual energy goes to Godzilla and revives him, and he proceeds to destroy the fight the Super X. In this scene in the Shinjuku district, it looks so apocalyptic, and the cinematography is epically beautiful and frightening at the same time. Anyway, the two of them escape the building through a hose. At this point, Godzilla destroys the Super X. Well, let me explain. They lower a fire hose down the damaged stairwell and climb down it. Godzilla destroys the Super X and pushes a building down on it and lets out his most devastating, just unnerving roar you ever heard him utter. They run away, and the hobo stops to get a briefcase, and he turns around and sees Godzilla, and he literally dies from the radiation poisoning, and that's frightening in itself that one way or another Godzilla's gonna kill you. I don't got a lot of time left, so I need to hurry up and wrap this up. They get the signal to work, and Godzilla comes to the beach, and Goro's telling her, please come with me to the island. And a helicopter does get them, and I like that pretty much the rest of the movie, other than one line, is played out without any dialogue. Godzilla leaves, gets in Tokyo Bay, comes to the island, gets to the mouth of the volcano. It caves in, and he's like on this inner lip, and they detonate the explosions. And I love the look, like the professor knew it needed to be done, but he hates himself for being a part of doing this to Godzilla. He knows Godzilla's a magnificent specimen, and it's because of mankind that Godzilla exists. In the credits roll as the other two characters come in their helicopter and the volcano's erupting, and we get this kind of goofily cheesy song, Goodbye Now, Godzilla. What's in the wake of Nakajima's passing is a little sad because of the line, Godzilla, my friend. And then you get the most beautiful end title shot in the entire series. And it's so Showa-esque with the island, with the volcano erupting and the beautiful rippling water of the ocean. I can't recommend this movie enough. Like I said, get both versions. Both of these have a place in your collection. Get the Kraken Rising and go to sumogorilla.com and get this version. Well, that's been my 3-part review of This of the Return of Godzilla, aka Godzilla 1984, aka Godzilla 1985. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, dislike. Next time I'll see you with Godzilla versus Biolante.